Call of Duty, a name needs no introduction. With 17 years of history and more than 50 million players worldwide, it is one of the best gaming brands out there. In this video, we are going to take you through history of every Call of Duty game, how it went on to become one of the most popular gaming franchises in the world, and we're starting right now. In 2002, Electronic Arts and 2015 Incorporated jointly published one of the historic World War II games of all time, Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Originally based on Steven Spielberg's Oscar-winning film Saving Private Ryan, the game had brought something that very few games had done so far: a story-based, first-person shooter closely tied to a popular movie and a real history. In 2003, few developers of the original Medal of Honor team left 2015 Incorporated and created a new studio, Infinity Ward. And within a year, the first Call of Duty game was born. Unlike the monotonous campaign style of Medal of Honor, Call of Duty had three distinctively different storylines. An American campaign based on Operation Overlord, the airborne campaign shown just after Normandy landing, a British campaign showing the events of Operation Tonga, spearheaded by the character Captain Price, who would go on and become the face of almost every Call of Duty game. The third campaign is the Soviet campaign, which starts in Stalingrad as a young Soviet volunteer, a clear inspiration from the famous Jude Law starrer Enemy at the Gates. The campaign ends with the same volunteer storming the Reichstag building in Berlin. The game received a stunning review from the critics as well as the gamers with a rating of 9.3 out of 10. In the next 10 years, this game would sell almost 4.5 million copies and create a world record. Almost 2 years after the first game, Call of Duty 2 was released in October 2005. While the single-player mode continued having American, British and Soviet campaigns, a new multiplayer mode was released. The Infinity Ward 2 engine improved graphics quality a lot, and the new multiplayer mode enabled the player to play as Axis powers, in addition to the allied modes already there. Call of Duty 3, which was released the next year, replaced the Soviet campaign with brand new Polish and Canadian campaigns. Developers added the ability to toss live grenades, picking up ammos from both friendlies and enemies. Although it sounds obvious in today's FPS games, it was a big deal at that point of time. The multiplayer also added ranked matches and achievements and a team size of 24 in newer generation consoles such as PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, and 16 for the older generation consoles such as PlayStation 2 or the original Xbox. It's 2007, and so far the timeline of Call of Duty is still in different periods of World War II, and all weapons conform to the same. However, this was about to change. In 2007, the gaming world was different and moved away from World War II based titles. While Medal of Honor style games were still popular, the market was rattled with the arrival of new generation of modern and futuristic combats, including Crysis, Gears of War, the new generation of Halo, and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon series. The choice in front of publishers was either to create a completely different type of Call of Duty games or to create a new franchise of modern games. Activision and Infinity Ward decided to go with the first option. In November 2007, the first Call of Duty game set in modern times was released as Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Apart from introducing a completely new set of modern weapons, maps and locations, it introduced the famous Call of Duty style of movements which we see even today. The new Infinity Ward 3 engine took the graphics and realism to a different height, basics of which is maintained even in the modern titles of the series. The game's single-player campaign is set in the Middle East and in modern-day Russia against the protagonist Imran Zakhaev, leader of an imaginary Russian ultra-nationalist party. The multiplayer saw the biggest upgrade in terms of gadgets and weapons, with UAV, airstrikes, attack choppers, and it introduced an experience point concept which is there even today. The game was a super hit, scoring almost near 10 out of 10 in most critical reviews. While the previous games were very popular, this is the game which actually created a massive fan following for the Call of Duty series. By November 2013, the game was sold over 15 million units. Even after 9 years, the popularity of the game was so high that Activision and Infinity Ward came out with a remastered version of this game in 2016 with the same plot as the original one. The Modern Warfare series continued to be upgraded every 2 to 3 years since then. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was released in 2009 just during the global slowdown. The game was developed based on a new Infinity Ward 4 engine and was very close to the graphics of Crysis. The plot of the game is a continuation of the first installment in Russia. However, the storyline revolved around running reconnaissance operations in Afghanistan to doing the same in mainland Russia. Apart from adding more weapons and considerably better graphics, one of the highlights of the game was its improved audio, both in instrumental created by famous music composer Hans Zimmer and the gameplay. The reception surprisingly was great even during the economic slowdown, and the game's popularity continued even today. Just like the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare game, a remastered version of the game was released recently in 2020 by Activision for PlayStation 4 and Xbox. The third installation of Modern Warfare was released 2 years later in 2011. The game starts where the previous game ended. This was also an important time for the Infinity Ward as a company, as two of their founders along with few other original team members had left the team. This is also the time when two other development companies, Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software, joined the force to develop this game. While the graphics of the game was improved to a certain amount, the major change was in its multiplayer mode. The way players gathered points was completely changed vis-a-vis the previous installments. Focus was given on all aspects of warfare rather than just coding based on kills. The Defender and the Private Matches modes were added. The game received a hugely positive response, with most giving it 9 out of 10. By November 2013, it was sold more than 25 million times. After World War II and modern times, Call of Duty moved to the future with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare in 2014. Set in 2054 South Korea, assuming that Korean War continues to the next generation of Jae and Kim, it starts in a story of an imaginary North Korean invasion of Seoul. The story quickly moved from Korea to Nigeria, where the team had to stop a terrorist group from forcing a nuclear reactor meltdown. The game revolves around the United States and Thailand after that and ends in Iraq and an imaginary Atlas prison camp. The major change in the game was a series of futuristic weapons, a completely different and colorful setup never before seen in Call of Duty series. This was a big change, considering Call of Duty never showed future warfare before. The game received an overwhelmingly positive response and was the top-selling game for the year even after drop-in sales since the last Modern Warfare game. The next version of Call of Duty Warfare series took the future further ahead. Released in 2016, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is about a distant future where the entire Earth is under one umbrella of UNSA. The protagonist in this game is a totalitarian military government in Mars, which starts a war with UNSA, and the game starts in Geneva where the military government, that is SDF, launches a surprise attack. The game takes the gamer from Earth to spaceships and Mars, and for the first time in the series implemented a space warfare capability. The game also features a parallel zombie mode with a complementary separate timeline and characters. While the single-player mode received a lot of praise for the innovative gameplay, story, and the weapons included, the multiplayer mode received criticism for lack of innovation. The difference between the two modes did not go well with the overall theme of the game, and since then, Call of Duty Warfare series never tried another game set in such a distant future. The most recent version of Modern Warfare was launched in 2019, and the location was taken back to Russia in a fictional ex-Soviet state, Uruzgan. The game offers stunning graphics based on the most recent version of Infinity Ward 8 engine with ray tracing support. The storyline of the game took inspiration from the real-life wars going on around the world, including the war in the Middle East. While the single player received praise for its interesting campaign and storyline, the real popularity lies in multiplayer. Located in the fictional city of Verdansk in former Soviet Union, Modern Warfare is one of the most played multiplayer first-person shooter in the world today. Seeing the popularity, Activision and Infinity Ward pulled up a surprise in March 2020. A completely new game based on the multiplayer version of Modern Warfare has been released for PC and consoles, named Call of Duty Warzone. This free-to-play battle royale game became an instant hit and since then has been immensely popular with battle royale and FPS fans worldwide. The game includes multiple battle royale type matches and a plunder mode where frequent respawn is possible, and instead of encircling gas balls, the player had to look after kills and collecting money. In spite of its popularity, Warzone is trawled for its enormous download size of more than 100 gigabytes, and the memes never seem to stop, as the users face gigabytes of download almost every week and continuous flow of minor updates requiring precious hard drive space. Before we move to another Call of Duty blockbuster series, there are 3 further major experiments that the series did, which is worthy of mentioning. The first one is Call of Duty Ghosts, which was released in 2013. Planned to be a direct competitor of Splinter Cell, Ghost was set in the immediate future and had more or less a single character narrating the entire story. It talks about a fictional South American superpower conglomerate as main antagonist. Unlike Modern Warfare's open and fast-paced combat, the game was more aligned to the hidden infiltrate mechanism of Splinter Cell. The Ghost did well in the review, but there was a spark missing, and since then we have not seen any sequel to this game. Call of Duty returned to its origin in 2017 with Call of Duty World War II, and yes, it was the same theater as the first Call of Duty game, Operation Overlord. The single-player plot starts just after Normandy landing and then moves to Paris, Battle of Bulge. The campaign ends in Texas in the post-war era, where the hero gets a Bronze Star for his service. The main difference this time is the massive improvement in graphics and gameplay, new weapons, a great multiplayer mode with Nazi zombies hunting you down, and a massive choice of divisions, including infantry, airborne, mountain, resistance, commando, etc. The game performed well in the market and pitted against the yet-to-be-released Battlefield 5. It sold almost 20 million copies by the end of 2017. The last entry was a surprising one. In October 2019, a mobile version of Call of Duty was released, which was directly pitted against other popular mobile battle royale games such as PUBG Mobile and Free Fire. Developed by Tencent, the game featured Battle Royale mode along with other popular modes such as Deathmatch. The Zombie mode was added in November 2019. The game is currently one of the most popular mobile FPS games and has over more than 250 million players worldwide, with $300 million of revenue so far. There are of course many other smaller titles for PC and handheld devices such as Call of Duty Online, Force Recon, Zombies, Strike Team, Heroes, Road to Victory, Declassified, and few console-specific titles such as Finest Tower, Big Red 1, Final Fronts, and War Collection. But in the bigger context, they played very little part. Now let's move back to 2008. While shifting from World War II, Call of Duty developers started a new series. Call of Duty World at War, although set in the same World War II time period, changed the way the game was played and in fact was the first installment of the Black Ops series. While Modern Warfare had brought a new dimension of gaming, the Black Ops series introduced a more fast-paced gameplay with AI-powered squads in single-player mode. The story begins in 1942 with a violent execution of US Marine Squad by Japanese in Makin Island, from which the main character, US Private Miller, escapes. The story involves around different battles in Pacific and ends in Okinawa. There's also a Soviet campaign related to a battle of Stalingrad in the Eastern Front. The battle moves quickly to Berlin and includes a tank battle in the city. The final part of the battle involves the historical battle in Reichstag, the parliament of Nazi Germany. The game was a hit and was sold over 15 million copies in coming years. 2 years later, in 2010, just after the economic slowdown, Activision and Infinity Ward released the first Black Ops game, which also carried the Black Ops brand. Call of Duty Black Ops this time targeted the Cold War era, including the Vietnam War. The game contains one of the most varied locations till date in the series, starting from Central Asia to Cuba, Asia Pacific including Vietnam, and then to Siberia. The game carried over the gameplay and mechanics from Modern Warfare, but is more fast-paced. There's also a zombie mode to watch for. It was followed by Call of Duty Black Ops 2 set at the end of Cold War and was released in 2012. The storyline moved from Africa, Afghanistan to Central America. It was the first game to include the branching storyline and Strike Force missions, where, based on success or failure of each of these missions, the campaign storyline was changed. The multiplayer was similar to Modern Warfare released the year before, but had a new system called Big Ten, which introduced more slots for weapons, something we see in almost all Call of Duty games these days. The fourth installment of Black Ops moved the storyline to the distant future, set in 2065 Ethiopia and then to Singapore. The main attraction of the game, however, was the multiplayer gameplay, which took the weapon set of Advanced Warfare and made it even better. The icing on the cake was a World War I era zombie mode, which was never seen before in the series. The game received superb success across critics and fans and sold over 7 million copies in the first week. Till today, it is still one of the most loved games in the Call of Duty franchise. Activision and Infinity Ward kept it coming. The fifth version of Black Ops series, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, was released in 2018. However, unlike the previous version, this only had multiplayer and a Battle Royale mode. Two storylines, one set in 2043 and the other a zombie mode in 1912. The game made another massive change by removing automatic healing and introduced a manual healing process to make it more challenging. The Battle Royale mode, also known as Blackout, supported up to 100 players in a match and brought the modern concept of Battle Royale in solo, duos and squad mode in the Call of Duty series. It also introduced AI-controlled zombies and several additional vehicles such as the ATV and helicopters. Later, it also introduced a new Alcatraz map, having up to 40 players support as a quicker version of the Battle Royale. The latest version of Black Ops was announced in August 2020 and is scheduled to be launched on November 13, 2020. The game is again set in Cold War era and said to be tightly coupled with the Modern Warfare and Warzone. The game has both single and multiplayer modes. The single player is based on real events in different locations of East Berlin, Turkey, Vietnam, and Soviet headquarters. Just like Black Ops 3, the campaign will progress depending on how the player is playing, individual missions, and can have different endings. The multiplayer portrays a 6 vs 6 and a 12 vs 12 combat mode and is almost similar to other multiplayer modes we have seen in the past. It's unclear what is going to happen on 2021. Activision may just continue releasing seasons for the current Modern Warfare game and Warzone, or release a completely new Modern Warfare game. Looking at the past record of releasing Modern Warfare games every 2 years, the second option looks more likely. I hope you have enjoyed the history lesson. Consider a like or a sub if you did. See you soon with another game review. Till then, bye bye.